Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Poverty Chef, and I've got another episode for you here today. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's new immigration policy. Now, Donald Trump has been struggling through his entire administration and even prior during his election to come up with an immigration policy that'll please both wings of the American government. His preference has seemed to lean towards the conservative right, with as little immigration as possible being the stereotypical extreme, while the competing factions on the liberal left have immigration as much as possible being their stereotypic extreme. On the 16th of May 2019, that's this year, Trump announced his merit-based immigration policy. He said that we discriminate against genius and we discriminate against brilliance, and he said that he wants to stop that. He warned the Democrats that if they do not support his policy now, that he's going to pursue it his next election, and he seems pretty confident that Republicans are going to take the House, keep the Senate, and of course keep the election. That'll be a different video though on what I think the odds on that are. So what is in his new plan? This is kind of exciting, but I'll get more into that in a minute. My script is jacked up. Okay, there we go. So from 2014 onward, the number of illegal immigrants coming into the country every year has been more than 1 million immigrants per year. 2013 was kind of an outlier. It was like 900,000, and then before that was also about 1 million immigrants per year. Of these, only about 12% come to the U.S. for skill-based reasons. Another 66% come for or with family ties, and the remainder come for humanitarian reasons. These are the people who are requesting asylum, fleeing turmoil, stuff like that. Now, Trump wants to keep the incoming population about the same, so he wants to keep it where currently it's about a little over 1.1 million people per year. Trump wants to keep that number the same, but he wants to balloon the skills portion up to 57% and cut family ties in half down to 33%. Excuse me. And he wants to reduce the humanitarian seeking portion of the immigrant population to just 10%. Now, one aspect, of the of increasing the skilled immigration will be to streamline the application and approval process for visas. I'm not entirely sure how he's going to do that. I haven't been able to find anything that goes into any detail, and that's important for something I'm talking about in a minute. The family status is going to be changed because what he wants to do is reduce the types of relationships that can get sponsored. So if you come here, you can no longer sponsor parents or siblings, instead just children and spouses. Another part of the new policy is going to be to devote a substantial amount of resources to building a wall along the border. This is something that most of us have heard about and that Trump has been very adamant about doing. Do I think walls work? This can be a different topic. He wants to focus on 33 strategic locations along the border that the Trump administration believes have become key points for drug and human trafficking. He also wants to upgrade ports of entry with better technology for, also for trafficking reasons. And now, what's not in the plan? The plan doesn't mention anything about DACA. That's deferred action for... Oh, crap, I can't remember what that means. This is embarrassing. Deferred action for... You know what? No, we're going to look this up right now because this is what we do. You don't know something, you got to find what it means. And now it is not the Dogo Argentino Club of America. That is a different DACA. Okay, hang on here. I'm going to have to cut this out. It's deferred action for childhood arrivals. Okay, there we go. I had a few... Yeah, just leave me a dislike now. Okay, so Donald Trump's plan doesn't mention anything about DACA, which is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It doesn't mention anything about temporary protected status, and it doesn't mention anything for immigrants illegally within the U.S. right now, which is probably the hottest topic within the immigration debate itself. Now, what does all this mean? There's been quite a bit of a stir in the political realm regarding Donald Trump's announcement of this. Democrats have already begun tearing the plan apart. A lot of it's over DACA. They're saying that if nobody's going to be talking about Dreamers, that's the children who would fall under DACA is going to be what are popularly referred to as Dreamers. And a lot of Democrats are saying that if Dreamers are not mentioned, if they're not brought up or addressed in any sort of way, then they're just not going to take Trump's plan seriously at all. There does seem to be consensus, however, among the Republicans that President Trump's plan isn't designed to be put into law, but rather he's outlining key components of the debate that he wants for himself, for his future policy. And this is kind of his way of announcing that he's ready to come to the negotiating table and try and, bring everybody together and find a common solution for the immigration crisis. Well, is it a crisis in the United States? That's up to debate. But I did some research earlier, and different countries are calling their own immigration debates a crisis. For example, Spain. Now, why is this important? And this is for context, because a lot of people like to talk about immigration, and everybody seems to have an opinion on it, but there doesn't seem to be really a whole lot of facts. And I was even having trouble finding reputable sources. And then, even then, obviously, I'm coming to the discussion biased as well, and so any sources that I find that might be reputable can be hard to trust or hard to identify as reputable because those sources can be so different from what I'm used to seeing. And that can make things hard too for any sort of politician or anybody that's in the public eye. But basically, within the last couple of decades, immigration has become a strong issue in the United States. And part of that, well, the really big parts are strong economic growth in the U.S., growing instability in Latin America, and relatively lax border security from previously when immigration was not such a big issue. And this has encouraged a lot of immigration, particularly from Latin America. Now, something that's interesting, and a lot of people don't think about this, but the strong economic growth in the United States has made wealth more accessible to American citizens. And with accessible wealth comes more leisurely spending, and this includes things like illicit drugs. And a lot of the instability that's growing in Latin America is being fed by this money being spent on drugs, because a lot of the drug production, particularly things like cocaine, are produced in Latin America, and then they get moved up into the United States. And so I think it's kind of interesting that this, in some ways, is a self-feeding issue. Now, typically, especially like in the early 90s, and if you watch Men in Black, the immigration thing was known. It was so well known that it was in a pop culture movie, just casually referenced in the beginning. But just like in the movie, there didn't really seem to be a whole lot of concern. Okay, we had 500,000 people come in this year. That's really peanuts. But then you start getting up to 1 million a year, and people start getting more concerned. And so the more people that come, obviously you're going to have some bad apples there. And so the more immigrants come that create crime or that commit crime are going to look bad, obviously. But then people are going to start noticing that there's more and more migrants, and in theory, less and less jobs. Even if they're doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do, it's still a point of complaint. And so as more immigrants come, there's also the issue of taxes. Migrants can be a burden on the taxpayer system, especially when they commit crimes. They're taking the time of law enforcement officers, other first responders, and then they're also not contributing taxes, right? So I didn't do too much research on this, but it's just common sense. And I'm sure, when you purchase something in America, you're paying taxes, right? Like, I'm sure that's where the majority of citations come from, where they're saying that illegal immigrants pay a lot of taxpayer money. But when you're an illegal immigrant, you're not legally allowed to purchase property, and you're also not legally allowed to work. And so wherever you're living, you're not paying property tax. Maybe you're paying rent and that pays property tax, but that's, it's going to be hard to find information on that. But any illegal immigrant in the U.S. that is working illegally without a work visa or without a green card or without citizenship, excuse me, is not going to be paying income tax. And so even if they're paying, secondhand property taxes or paying taxes on purchases, they're still a disproportionate consumer of taxpayer commodities. They're still disproportionately more a burden than a producer. And that's just a fact. That's not me trying to say anything bad. This isn't an opinion piece. It's just a fact, though, that if you are working illegally, obviously you're being paid under the table and you're not contributing any income tax. And another point of contention, too, is that the immigration rate is so high that at the U.S.-Mexico border, nearly 110,000 illegal immigrants were intercepted just in April of 2019, and then over 103,000 in March. Those are some pretty high numbers, and those are just apprehensions. That's not including the ones that successfully, or the immigrants that successfully got past border security. It's extremely difficult for me to find unbiased sources. Like I mentioned earlier, I have been having a lot of trouble, and then, again, any sources that I find that might be reputable, it's hard to identify as reputable because there's such a wide spectrum of information. Some of it's extreme, some of it's not, and so it's hard to differentiate. Sometime eventually in the future, I will commit a lot more time to this issue, and I will be putting in more effort to understanding. That's probably going to be for my opinion piece that I'll do as like a sister video to this, and that's not going to be anytime soon, though, I think. So this is me not being able to find information is important because a lot of people will say that immigrants cause more crime, that they commit more crime, but I don't know. It's believable for sure, but I can't find anything specifically about America. And everybody wants to have their hands in the political pie, but since it's not such a polarized issue in other countries, or at least it's not under the same circumstances in the United States, I've been able to find a couple other countries. I used only European countries because of the cultural and demographic similarities, and I'll get more into that at the end of this segment. But I took some other countries, and I was able to find crime statistics for immigrants there. So in Italy, immigrants make up just 8.2% of the population, but they make up 34% of the prison population. Of these, the most common nationalities are of Morocco, Albania, Romania, Tunisia, and Nigeria. So Eastern Bloc Europe and Northern Africa. Migrants make up 12.8% of Spain's population, but they commit but the source said 30% of all crimes. Now in Germany, and I found this really interesting, North African migrants, despite making up 0.9% of the population in Lower Saxony, so this is just in Lower Saxony, represent 17.1% of all violent crimes and 31% of the burglaries. In the whole of Germany, in 2018, migrants made up 12.8% of the population, so the same as Spain. And according to the Wall Street Journal, commit 74.4% of all pickpocketing crimes, 41.3% of all burglaries, 37% of all rapes and sexual assaults, and 29.7% of all murder and manslaughter. Now, that is a huge gap where 12.8% of the population is committing over a third of your rapes and sexual assaults. That blows my mind, and why a country would... No, you know what? I'm not... almost gave you an opinion, but I'm trying to keep my opinions out of this. I used European nations for a couple reasons. I used immigration examples from these countries because Europe is the most culturally and economically similar place in the world to the United States, with the exception of, probably Canada and Australia. And like the U.S., and unlike Canada and Australia, well, depending on your opinion, you might count Canada as this. Like the U.S., the EU, or the European Union, has a large conflict-filled landmass to its south. So, depending on your outlook, Canada would fit that description. Obviously, the motives and reasons for migration from the Middle East and Africa into Europe are going to be a little bit different from those for immigration from Latin America into the United States. But it's safe to say that, and, it's really common knowledge that the main reason people migrate is to find stability and economic opportunities. And so there's, again, similarities there. And this information also echoes a larger global trend of increased migration from equatorial, conflict-filled regions with disproportionately larger male-to-female ratios into more northern, stable nations. So if you put this on a map, I saw it recently. If I can find it, I'll put it in the video. If not, then I'll just be showing you guys something else. But from the Middle East and Northern Africa, and then Southeast Asia as well, there's a lot of migration towards Northern Eurasia. Likewise, there's also a lot of migration out of Latin America and into Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Obviously, less so into Mexico, but Mexico does receive quite a few migrants itself. And some of these migrants also travel south, but most of the opportunity, and this follows into some interesting anthropological theories about why Eurasia is so successful, is that the land is longer rather than taller. But that's a different issue. But you do see most of this migration does move north into these wider land masses. Now, I'm trying to keep my opinions out of this video because for my channel, I want to have fact pieces and opinion pieces. The opinion pieces are going to be the funny ones. I might have a couple jokes in the fact ones, but the fact ones are my goal is, as I'm trying to move up in the world, get the information and display it in a factual format so that you can get unbiased information and you know that you can trust it, at least as much as I can trust it. And then you can come back for your entertainment when I do my opinion pieces. Let's see here. That's about everything I have. Just so the second half of all that content was just so you have context to understand why Trump is now ready for the negotiating table, and why he's coming out with this policy now. And I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't come out with something like this sooner. I think it's really a pretty easy thing to propose solutions for, but obviously it's not going to be an easy thing to enact a solution for. So with that being said, go ahead and leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Obviously I did bad. I always do bad. But tell me what I can do to be better. And don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe. Also, that was sarcasm. In case you don't do sarcasm. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.